Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and get started just a minute early. Thanks so much for being here with us today at the 15th Annual Oak Conference. Just want to make some general announcements. I'm Katie Harvey. I'm Oak CSA Marketing Manager. We have an annual survey. There's a QR code in your program, so please complete that today, or we have some paper copies at the front registration table. I'll be passing around some session surveys at the end of the session, so we'd love your feedback on this session specifically. Just really grateful for you all to be able to get together with us today. This is definitely one of my favorite parts of the year, is just to get to be with you all and get to connect, to get to learn from each other, and really excited for this panel. So I'm going to pass it over to Krista Jacobsen. She's going to be moderating for us, and we have a worth it, not worth it vegetable farmer panel with Pavel Ovechkin, Zach Selby, and Annie Woods. Let's give it up.
Can you all hear me okay? Okay, I'm a little soft-spoken, so if at any point, and mic shy, so if at any point you can't hear me, please feel free to interrupt or wave or something. So, as Katie said, I'm Krista Jacobsen. I'm a faculty member at the University of Kentucky, where I work with our Sustainable Ag and Community Food Systems program and our Beginning Farmer program, and get to work with a wonderful group of folks at the Food Connection and with the UK CSA. And I think kind of all of us in all of those spaces at UK have looked with great admiration at the farmers on this panel, whether we buy our food from them at the university or whether we've participated in Oak Field Days and brought folks to that, or have visited their farms. They are spectacular market gardeners, and I think they are uniquely qualified as innovators, as growers of extremely high quality produce, to be able to talk about worth it, not worth it in a variety of ways, from growing techniques to particular crops to even how they've honed their markets. And so that's kind of how we've structured this conversation, is a series of kind of guided questions that lean into their lessons learned, tips, tricks, hacks, things they've just said, oh crap, I'm not dealing with this anymore, and bringing that candid conversation to you all. We'll also leave lots of opportunity for the Slido deal, to crowdsource questions. This is a real brain trust of farmers up here, you all. And I think they truly do save the best for last in a lot of these things, not to dog any other sessions, but this is one worth staying for. And so we really hope you all will lean into answering, to fielding questions for these folks. So, we good? Ready? Okay, so also I'm going to embarrass myself because I really need bifocals. So we're just going to start with you all introducing yourselves. Take this as you like, who you are, a little bit about your operation and markets, and maybe one thing that you love or is worth it that you're excited to talk about today.
My name is Pavel Ovechkin of Pavel's Garden, very uniquely named. I've been selling at farmers markets since, I would say, 2007. Louisville first, now Louisville and Cincinnati farmers markets. Grow in 7 hoop houses. Overall growing area is 3 acres. We grow, about 30 types of different vegetables. Focus on more specialty varieties of those vegetables.
Hey, I'm Zach. I farm in Lexington. I have 4 acres certified organic. About 1.25 acres that is actually cropped in beds. 9,000 square feet of greenhouses. We have a little heated nursery spot, a couple farmers friend caterpillar tunnels. I went to cooking school, did the whole chef thing, had a kid, realized I didn't want to work 80 hours a week, working all nights. And so I took the inspiration I'd always gotten from farmers coming into the restaurants and buying produce from them, and started doing that in my backyard, maybe like 2017 or something like that. Started an LLC, sold it all to some friends, met somebody with a 47-acre farm. She gave me 4 acres, and that was in 2020. So rolling into the 6th season out there.
I'm Annie Woods. My farm is named Darkwood Farm, and I started the business back in 2014. I was a tenant farmer leasing land. Moved around a couple times, always in search of land, and my partner and I found some land to buy and put down permanent roots almost 5 years ago now in Bracken County near Augusta, Kentucky. I started out as a farmer's market farmer, and now we don't do any farmer's markets at all, and sell through a CSA and direct to restaurants, with our main markets being in Cincinnati, Covington, Newport, Northern Kentucky area.
Awesome, you all. So you already hear a lot of teasers of things that may have been worth it or not worth it. Chef gig, not worth it. Different types of market innovations, those kinds of things. So let's kind of lean into that a little bit, thinking about this kind of maybe big picture production system kind of perspective. Season extension is top of mind this time of year. Been a lot of conversations at this conference of how did your tunnels fare in this? How did your row covers fare in this weather? So we're going to dive into that a little bit and talk about how you all use season extending techniques, be they high tunnels, low tunnels, row covers, even heated greenhouses, if that's something that you all want to talk about. With each of these questions, we're going to let each farmer take it the direction that fits their farm and operation. Okay, so we'll kind of cast a broad net here and let them speak to their innovation and what they've learned in those spaces. So if each of you could kind of speak to your experiences pushing the boundaries on the season and what has ended up being worth it for you and your markets. And if there's anything, you can also take it the direction of not worth it. So feel free to kind of choose your own adventure there.
So because I was leasing land for a long time, I really resisted putting up any like really big infrastructure on the land. And so, coming on to, a farm to be at home at now, when we bought the farm, there was actually a high tunnel, and I had worked on farms previously and done high tunnel production. So we were kind of excited that, hey, there's a high tunnel, we can extend our season a little further than we normally do. But up to that point, it was mostly we were just using fabric row covers to extend our season, and had really good luck with that in the early spring and late in the fall. But when we bought the farm and we saw the high tunnel, we were like, that is not gonna last. We're on a ridge top, and we get intense wind in the winter when the trees have like no leaves on them. We would be asleep in our house hearing like plastic flapping around, like losing sleep over it. So yeah, like not even a year into living there, the plastic blew off, and we made the decision that we did decide we bought a piece of plastic to replace it, and then we decided we're not gonna put that on there. We're gonna take it down because it's just like the wind is only gonna get stronger from year to year. So it just didn't seem like a good location. And we have all the pieces saved up in the barn, and we might put it up one day after doing some work to build some windbreaks. But I think honestly part of it too is I have really tried to push the seasons on either end. And in the last few years, especially since I have a 3-year-old, we just like to have January and February off of like production and freezing our fingers off outside and trying to get row cover unstuck from the ground. So I think that for us, we decided large infrastructure, given the situation of our farm, just didn't make sense. So we do grow and sell things all the way up through the end of December, and most of that is through using fabric row cover and growing more storage crops at the end of the season that we can put into our walk-in and hold and sell from there. And so we've decided to grow the kinds of crops that hold well and are attractive to our customer base at that time of year, and then just start back up in the spring.
I would actually say worth it is high tunnels for me. In particular, to apply for one of the NRCS high tunnels is very worth it. Because when I first applied for it, I was kind of under the impression that you would have to have that money up front. But after talking to Martin's Greenhouse Supply, you can sign a contract with them, and they will build that greenhouse for you, supply it, and when you get paid back from the government, you pay them back. So it's kind of a no-brainer if you think you're going to be somewhere for 5 years. That's the life of the plastic probably anyways, and then you end up with that frame. So that's pretty great. And then to hit the not worth it. When I first started out, I'm on like the 30-inch bed system with the 18-inch walkway. I thought it would be really smart to get the 10-foot conduit, bend it, and then have the fabric over there. And it works pretty good in the spring. It covers the beds good. But then when you try to use it in the summer for shade cloth, really hard to get it in the ground. The conduit is so wide. So you can buy those little miniature hoops, little single wire hoops already built, already cut and bent and everything. And I'm pretty sure it's even cheaper to cover a plot with that anyways. So those I don't ever use, even though I have quite a few of them. It's a bit of wasted money for me. And in the fall, the other downside to that, why I don't think they're worth it, is because on the shoulders of the outside bed, any crop that has height will take frost damage when you have it covered with row cover. So if you got like romaine, lettuce heads, whatever, they're gonna get maybe more damage from having the frost and freeze on that, and then on the crop as well.
I would say not worth it is self-made caterpillar tunnel made with PVC pipes. That's, I've been growing for a long time. It was started before like the small market revolution happened, like where all the caterpillar tunnel kits became available and all the tools, and people used to make the PVC pipe cat tunnels, but where PVC comes in contact with the greenhouse plastic, it becomes brittle and deteriorate. Even like the greenhouse 6 mil plastic will break down from the contact with PVC over the course of the 1 or 2 seasons. So, but as far as the crops we grow in an unheated caterpillar tunnels and Gothic hoop house as well. And as far as crops that are worth it for us, it's lots of spinach, kale. I like lacinato kale for winter production because they're very upright versus like a curly kale. It takes up a lot of space. But the lacinato kale, you can pack those plants in closer and it'll be more upright. And also we like to pack them in boxes, after harvesting, we like to pack them in boxes over curly kale because they take up way less space. Yes?
I was going to ask, can I ask a follow-up question about tunnels before we lose that thread? Because you are a super innovator in the tunnel space. I think you should check out Pavel's Instagram. He's always hacking tunnels that he's bought from other places. Can you talk a little bit about like worth it, not worth it in the context of buying a cat tunnel kit and making it more like a high tunnel with roll-ups and things like that versus just buying the kit?
Yeah. Well, I remember when Farmer's Friend first came out with the Caterpillar kit, it had the strap. Does everybody know? Like it had the strap for the center purlin, and there were no end walls. Like you had to tie the plastic at both ends to the T-posts, and then people started to innovate with that design and make their own end walls and go to Martin's and get center purlin and put a metal center purlin with the whatever they're called, the connectors, the cross connectors. And then enough people were doing that, and then Farmer's Friend started selling all that stuff. And then people started to, like me, make a more permanent, get ground posts, put the Caterpillar tunnel hoops on the ground posts, go to Martin's, get the double channel hip board, and get the roll-up crank, and use conduit for the roll-up side. Kind of like make the Caterpillar tunnel more of a hoop house with the end walls and roll-up sides and everything. And now Farmer's Friend sells kind of a version of that as well, because enough people were looking to do that, because Caterpillar tunnels are only practical. They're very inexpensive, or it used to be. But they have so many limitations that everybody is aware of, I'm sure.
Any other thoughts from you all kind of on the DIY versus kits versus this infrastructure?
I
side
would
of
just
things?
echo what Pavel said, that a lot of kits that I've seen, or like I've bought like old frames and put them back up, and we always put a strong purlin and roll up side. Like, it's just, we live in like a windy continental like climate, I just think whatever you can do, as far as you can get ground posts in the ground and as much structure as you can, you're going to have a much longer lived structure, and it's going to, in the end, be a huge benefit, rather than trying to scrimp and save a little bit of money at the upfront. So
Also, what I would say is not worth it, although I've never used that design, is the Gothic caterpillar tunnel. I've noticed, at least through Instagram and anecdotal evidence, that they tend to not stand up to snow and wind as well as the Quonset design, because there's like a weak point where they always buckle at the joint. So just something that I've noticed out there.
Yeah, and something different than what you would see in a traditional high tunnel, where they. Anyway, we're in the weeds on this.
Yeah,
You can tell.
the
Experience
traditional tunnel, like Martins will tell you, like the Gothic style is actually stronger against wind, not just snow, but wind, versus the Quonset design.
Yeah. It's interesting. Some variations from kind of the traditional knowledge from farmer hacks and thinking about things at really at different scales. Maybe we switch a little bit and start taking a deep dive into particular crops that have either been challenging for you or known to be challenging from a kind of a commercial market garden, small farm perspective. So most folks in here that have grown for market, or even just have a family of finicky eaters, have this experience of hitting a production challenges on crop that you have really great demand for, but that is really challenging to grow, especially in an organically grown system. Can each of you speak to a crop that you've leaned into and feel like it's worth it to you, and what your tips and tricks for success are in those? Alternatively, you are welcome to talk about your journey with the crop that you wrestled with and you have decided that it's just not worth it.
We pretty much have year-round, nonstop demand for carrots. So we haven't reached a point where we have grown enough carrots or not been able to sell carrots. So the demand is obviously continues theoretically through the heat of the summer and the dead of the winter. And so you kind of have to decide, do I do let me try the heat-tolerant varieties in the middle of the summer, like something like Romance or whatever Johnny's, let's say, would say, like it's a heat-tolerant variety. And then, but for example, with the summer carrots, with the rain events that we have and the heat and humidity, and like the carrot fly pressure during that time, rot, even though we have like a really well-drained native soil, so we still get like rot problems with when it's like the perfect storm of a rain event and the heat and humidity hits. So we've tried with the summer carrots, but I found that not to be worth it. And sometimes it's just okay to make him wait. Make him wait for the good stuff, because soon enough, Mokum carrots come back and they're going to be great. So I'd rather have like young Mokum carrots early fall, and they'll be great, versus like a so-so summer carrot that was extremely annoying for us to grow and process. And then in the winter, we grow less winter carrots, like harvest as you go in the dead of the winter, because we have problems with voles, and we have crazy problem with voles. Probably because we grow a lot of like sweet veggies that they like to eat. So we prefer to grow like lots of boleros, which is a storage carrot, and then harvest them in bulk and then store and dole them out through our winter pre-orders. So that's what I found.
When I first started the farm, I really did mostly herbs and lettuces. So through the years, I've leaned into cilantro and dill quite a bit. They're always great sellers, and chefs never necessarily expect them to be in uniform bunches like you might expect at a grocery store. So I can go out and just bunch a half a pound of something, and it's an easy way to add. If people are going to buy some lettuce or whatever, they're going to be happy to add some herbs. It's a great way to put a little extra cash on the invoice. Very worth it. Easy to get it going in the spring. I probably do like five rows on my 30-inch bed. I do it all with the jang. No transplanting on any of that usually, unless maybe a little cilantro transplants in the greenhouses or something like that. But in the summertime, much more difficult to get it to grow. So I will, lay a little extra down through the jang cedar, and then I'll even do the effort to put like the upside down silage tarp on there in the summertime to get it going. Throw some drip irrigation in there. One of my big hurdles is water access on my farm, where I'm in a converted horse pasture, so it has like a horse waterer, and I'm tapping that water, so I get 5 gallons a minute. And so through the summer, I run my water like 18 hours a day to get everything watered. So that's kind of like the recipe I've had to get it going. And then in the fall, once again, it's pretty easy to go. And then once you're done with the bed and it goes to flower, it's beautiful. It's good habitat. People like the dill flowers, and chefs love the green cilantro seed. So it's definitely a keeper for me.
Yeah, I'm like 100% with Zach on that. We grow a lot of perennial and annual herbs because we do sell a lot of produce to restaurants, and fresh herbs are it doesn't matter what else. They always order some kind of herbs, like every restaurant. And because we do a CSA, I always like to give one type of herb a week, and it changes from week to week in the CSA box. So I definitely think that herbs are worth it. And when I've done the calculations, like per square foot in the garden, they're one of like the most profitable crops for us. Things that I've tried that are definitely not worth it. When I started doing a CSA, I really wanted to have everything that you would want to eat as a CSA member. And we really struggled a lot with like green beans and corn, which it's, everybody in Kentucky like grows that in their home garden. But to grow them organically, the pest pressure was really tough. Not just insects, but the amount of sweet corn that raccoons ate like right before I was going to give it in the CSA was so frustrating. We weren't on a large enough scale. Like they could come in and wipe out our entire planting of sweet corn for our CSA in like one night. And anyway, when I was crunching the numbers for like the value of the corn we were giving, like it was like losing us money to grow corn and green beans. But we were trying to do that as a way of, that's something that the CSA members will like, and it's balanced out by a higher, like more profitable crop. But I gave up on those a while ago, although I will say, because my kid likes green beans, we tried it this year, and we just did a really late planting in August, and we were able to get 2 pickings off in October before the first frost, and it was like the most abundant and pest-free green beans I've ever grown. So fall green beans I may consider doing again, but I would never grow them for large quantity sales to restaurants. I just don't like spending so much time picking green beans. I do it just for the CSA. Yeah.
I would like to add on the green bean topic. Who likes to pick green beans? So tunnel growing can also happen in the summer, and I wish we could grow almost everything in hoop houses, even in the summer. And so we tried pole beans in tunnel instead of bush beans, and we enjoy that way better. And they go on like a jute trellis. It's like a netting, and connected to a high tensile wire up top, and it can be like Roma, flat bean, and green bean, like it looks like it looks like a green bean. But then when the trellis is at an angle, so you are upright, and then the beans are like hanging down, right? Like because it's at an angle, and so you just kind of, it's very easy picking, and you're upright. You are very hot. I mean, it's hot, so that's the trade-off, and it's a little bit of mate. But they produce over a longer period of time than a bush bean, and they start producing earlier as well because you can direct seed them in May. So we pretty much just do that over the bush green bean in the field, because I don't really sell the green beans at the farmers market all that much, because it's not really worth it at the end of the day. But we do have a small CSA, and I really wanted to have some green beans for CSA, so that was my solution.
I'll say one more thing on green beans. In kitchens, chefs typically don't really like picking green beans either. When they have like the little thing on there, they don't want to pay their staff to sit there and pick that. Like a bushel of beans is going to take a couple cooks a while to clean up. There's definitely some exceptions to that, but so I don't really mess with them either.
Any other thoughts on that? This is like this is the good stuff, right? So any other thoughts on tweaks to systems that have made things worth it for you all for particular crops? Take it whatever direction.
Well, going back to carrots, when we harvest them in bulk for storage, we got the undercutter tool. Does anybody? It's like a blade that goes underground, pulled by the tractor, and it just lifts up the carrots, and you don't have to dig. We don't have to dig them by hand. So that was a game changer, as they say, for us. And then we switched to, we no longer sell them with tops. So all of our carrots are either bundled with rubber bands by the root or bagged. So like we can control quality better that way, and more efficient storing, washing, packing. We wash them with a concrete mixer that we drilled holes in, and like one of those orange baskets, everybody know, like a bushel orange basket with the white handles. You just stick it into the concrete mixer, and the hose is connected to the front of it, and it's hands-free. You could be loading the next basket, take the one out, put it back in. So once we started to wash them that way as well, selling them without the greens became also another point toward it.
We like the herbs, as we talked about before. I used to do a lot of transplants at first because I had germination can be tricky, especially in the spring when it's cold. And I just thought, all of these herbs take so long to germinate, like dill and cilantro and parsley, especially parsley, like takes so long to germinate. I was just like, the weeds are gonna win the race on that. So we did a lot of transplants, but just like in the last 2 years, we went back to trying to direct seed and just really manage like irrigation through the germination stage and try and do it early enough where the weed pressure isn't on. And we like the the production of them is so much better, and the health of the plants is so much better direct seeding those crops, which I sort of knew because like those plant families like to be direct seeded, but we were really trying to get around the weed pressure for some of those things that take a long time to germinate. So I've shifted my mind back to like, I don't transplant my parsley or any cilantro or dill anymore. We're just trying to do it from direct seed, and we're having really great outcomes with it. So.
Okay, well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about marketing. We've touched on a few of these things through thinking about, shifts around chef markets, CSAs, farmers market, and that kind of thing. Can each of you speak to lessons you've learned as you've explored market channel outlets? So thinking of farmers market, CSAs, even wholesaling. They all have their challenges and their opportunities. What are some of the lessons that you've learned in honing your market channels, and what works for you and your farm? And how have your market channels changed over time?
The first thing that I tried when I started the farm, I am from Kentucky, but I apprenticed on farms in Washington State and California. And so I knew things would be a lot different coming home to Kentucky. The climate, the soils, everything was going to be different. And even though I worked on farms that had really robust CSA programs, sold direct to chefs, did farmers markets, I thought, when I'm just learning the first year, I really don't want the pressure on to produce for a CSA, let's say. And I don't know that many chefs in the area. So the farmers market was the most obvious, best fit for me. So I used to do farmers markets in Cincinnati twice a week. And then I started to meet people, get an email list going, put a clipboard out at the farmers market and meet people, get names, and then I kind of trialed a small CSA my second year after I felt comfortable that I had gone through a growing season. And the farmers market just felt like a safe place to just bring whatever looked nice from the farm, and nobody would know about everything that was failing miserably or lost in weeds back at the farm. And so I think it worked really well. It helped to build a community. It helped us to meet some chefs that were shopping at the farmers market. But eventually we realized that the amount of time we were spending at the farmers market, and especially on bad weather days, or if there was a sports event going on in Cincinnati, you'd have really bad days and be bringing produce home. And so I just eventually shifted over to having a CSA and investing more in restaurant clientele, and now that's all that we do is we do a little bit more than that, but we do mostly CSA and restaurants, and we don't do farmers markets anymore. One of the hard things for me was every weekend being dedicated to the farmers market, and also if you had your one weather window on a farmer's market day, if you didn't have somebody else that could go to the market for you, which I didn't at the beginning, it was so frustrating because you were at the market just wanting to be back and taking advantage of the good weather to do production on the farm. And so I've personally found that CSA model and restaurant model works better for us because we just pick to order, pick just the right amount of vegetables for the CSA and whatever the chefs order, and you don't have any waste or stuff that people didn't buy, and you're just running out and doing a delivery and coming back. It's not standing around. Not you know what I mean? You're talking to people at the farmers market, but there's some days where you're standing around. So it just felt more efficient for us that way. And I would say our profitability really started to increase when we moved away from doing the farmers market and invested more into CSA and direct-to-restaurant clients.
Wow. We're just working opposites here. I got into it through the chef world, so I've always been interested in selling to restaurants, but I also wanted to have a giant chef's garden. So that's really hard to relay to chefs, because I send out a sheet and a text, and there's not really pictures involved with that. They can't really see what the stuff looks like. So I just find that I always have a lot of extra stuff that restaurants won't buy. So, I've done a veggie bag thing a few years back. Last year, I started a on-farm market where people can just come to the garden, drive past all the garden beds, and they can. I set up a little farmer's market there, and that did well last year. Did even better in 24, I should say, 2024. 2025, it did even better. Maintaining all the restaurant stuff with that. And so I'm trying to lean even further into the farmers market. I'm going to actually go to Lexington Farmers Market this year, 26, plus all the restaurant stuff, and hoping that can kind of be the last growth from my farm, that can be where we meet to to finally sell like all the product and connect all the dots. I think that should be good for us. I think we're very close to year 6.
Yeah, with like farmers markets, you have to like to do farmers markets. Like you have to like to set up farmers markets and break down. It's like setting up the mini grocery store every time. And it's, and you have to like to talk to people and answer the same question over and over. And and then if you don't like that, it's perfectly fine. Like there's so many options to pivot to. So I mean, we happen to enjoy doing farmers markets, and consistency is very important with farmers markets. You have to be there, as you said, like if it's bad weather, doesn't matter, like being there, because if you're there, it takes a long time to build brand loyalty and following with farmers markets, but then at the end, it's worth it in my view, because every time you're there when the weather is bad, the customers that are there, then they'll be back, no matter what. Like it's just over time, it builds and builds and builds, and that lasts for a long time, in my experience. And it's nice to kind of, for me, to go with farmers market trends and see what they are, and like listening to what people are saying, seeing what they're getting, like tweaking it slightly, what we're gonna grow next year or what we're gonna add, try to add, see how that does. To me, that's interesting to see. One of the recent things we've done with our winter farmers market is during the pandemic, we weren't sure if farmers markets were gonna be, how they were gonna operate. So sensing that was coming, we had like a sign-up sheet and physically collected like email addresses and phone numbers of all of our regulars that were coming to us at Louisville market, and that kind of became our newsletter, listserv. Is that what they're calling it? And we've kind of maintained that. It's like a precious data, like data is so important, right, these days. So all these contacts, we have them, and occasionally we'll send, an announcement. We don't try to spam them year round, but we'll send, an announcement like, hey, Ginger's back or something, or some kind of like an extreme weather event announcement, or, and then in the winter, we use that to announce what we will have at the winter farmers market, because we switched to pre-order pickups done through our website, and so to ensure sales, and then it's a smaller pickup window at the farmers market during winter, so we're not there for a more extended period of time, and so that something like that, like a contact list of your regulars, has been very important to us.
Makes winter market a little more palatable.
Yeah.
Knowing people are actually going to show up after you've frozen to harvest it.
And then everything had been sold, so you kind of, yeah.
Well, this has been great, you all. There's lots of great questions on the Slido, so let's pivot a little bit to that. And I'm just going to go in order of votes. So a number of folks are interested in a little bit of a conversation about pest management. So what pest management practices would you consider worth it, not worth it? And y'all feel free, we can do them all. If there's something you don't want to answer, you care not to answer, you can tap out. It's totally up to you.
I don't do any sprays on the farm whatsoever. So if I have a serious problem, I don't really mind dropping something. And I focused, like last year I had a huge problem with potato beetles. And I just did row covers. After I tried to knock them off a couple times, we dug them out. Some of them were small. It was fine, but I'm gonna grow less for this year. But when it comes to like lettuces and stuff, I just, we don't really have a ton of issues with that. I try not to over nitrogen in the winter and all that sort of stuff, just the basics. But yeah.
We use a lot of row covers in the spring, which helps like with temperature fluctuations, and also like flea beetles on a lot of the brassica crops, which are our earlier crops. And as long as the wind doesn't pick them up and they get under there, like they work pretty well for that. And then we started implementing like a no brassicas in July policy, because we were really, by June, things really pick up. All of the, cabbage moth species that, that their caterpillars are eating the leaves, and then harlequin bugs. And just like we tried to flail mow everything in and at least break the cycle for a month before we plant out fall brassicas. And it's not perfect, but it's way better than we had tried to keep brassicas continuously on our farm. And I would say when I started out, I was very, I didn't even want to use any organically accepted pesticides, but we just our kale, everything, all the brassicas got ravaged. So we do use BT, and that has been a really every 2 weeks or so, when we start seeing them, when we start seeing the butterflies flying around, the moths. I mean, we just go ahead and start spraying every 2 weeks, and then we take our break in July, and then the pressure's really not as bad in the fall after that. So that's been a big success for us. But I went really back and forth because I didn't want there to be any beneficial insects killed by a pesticide, even if it's allowed under organic certification. But I just, in learning more about BT, it was very targeted only for the caterpillars that were eating the leaves that had been sprayed on. So I felt better about it, that I wasn't going to be killing monarch caterpillars and other things, that I wanted to stay in the garden. So.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Do you use any of the BT on your transplants and stuff?
Normally we don't, unless we see them. Normally we try and keep our fall brassicas. I don't know if you're asking about fall brassicas, but yeah, fall brassicas we normally try to keep inside the greenhouse as long as we can, but still they can sometimes get into the greenhouse. And so if we start to see damage, we will put BT on the transplants. But I used to have roll-up sides on our propagation house, and then we put insect screen so that we can still roll up and get airflow, but we were trying to prevent that kind pests from coming into and having a screen door, slap shut screen door to go in and out, so we could be carrying a tray, right, and get in and out easily, but to try and keep as many pests out as we could. They still find a way, but it's not as bad as it was before we did that.
Do you buy a bumblebee for your greenhouse then? For pollination purposes? Do you have issues with that?
Well, we don't have anything, we only do starts propagation. We don't have anything that needs to actually get pollinated in there. But I will say, we sat in on the talk last year, the folks that are doing the insect netting in Dave Gonthier's lab, and they were saying you can, for the things that get pollinated, like eggplants and things like that, you can lift the ends, and the pests tend to stay on the ends, and the pollinators go in. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong about that, but yeah.
I didn't sit on that one.
On topic of insect netting, which is ProtectNet is the brand. It's a very finely woven mesh that you can use for flea beetles and cabbage moth, etc. I'd say that's worth it, especially if you buy it from Martin's, for example. It's going to be way less expensive, in my mind. But then you got to take care of it. You can't just leave it in the sun because it's going to become brittle quicker. It'll tear easier because it's kind of an investment, and also it's plastic essentially, so you want to take care of it. So you just daisy chain it, roll it out, put it away, take care of it. But it's pretty worth it in my view. With something like Colorado beetles with potatoes, I grew up picking them by hand, so I don't like doing that. Still, when we kind of thought we had more time, early growing, back in the day, we would take a 2-liter soda bottle and you cut the top off and invert it, and you can go around collecting Colorado beetles when they first emerge before they have laid eggs. It's like a quick way to, especially if you're growing not on a very big scale, just as the potato plants are coming up and cholera beetles are emerging as well from the soil, they're very easy to collect that way. But then we do spray spinosad on them, but what we do is that we try to harvest and sell potatoes. What works for us is that as new or baby potatoes as much as possible, and that way they just don't stay out in the field for as long. So they're still like as soon as they are flowering or done flowering, we dig them up. So yeah.
I just want to say one more thing, because I immediately thought of insect pests, but we have a lot of mammalian pests too in the garden. And for the first couple of years, I never invested in putting up deer fencing. And when you're growing like a highly diversified, intense market garden, like I will never grow vegetables without a deer fence anymore. I learned my lesson quickly. They can take out, they love like those really beautiful heads of lettuce you were waiting on, or your chicories, or whatever it was, or your beans, or whatever, sweet potatoes. And at first I thought, oh, well, they can have some, it won't be a big deal. And then we had a really dry summer and they like ate up my garden. And I just, never again will have a garden without an 8-foot tall deer fence around it.
Yeah, we used to do like a electric fencing for deer. It's like it's only a 3D deer fence, which is 2 sets of polywire and then 1 set of polywire on the outside, and it kind of tricks the deer into, because they don't have a very good depth of field vision, so they don't like leap far, they can leap very high. And that works okay. You have to keep it hot and very clear vegetation, and but now we have the physical fence, which is the 8-foot woven wire fence, and I mean there's no comparison. I mean I was like hell bent on getting it. I was at my wit's end, with deer, so it was just I have to have it, and it's well worth the investment for sure. So.
Great. We have a really good question here. I think that's burning for a lot of folks. And it's perennials and annuals. What's worth growing as a perennial and what isn't?
We don't really grow many perennials, I would say. So, any perennial?
I don't do much either in that either. I do some biannuals, I guess, like thyme and whatnot. That's definitely worth it. Anything you can leave out in the winter in the fields is super worth it. That'll come back in the spring.
Most up until this point, most of the perennials we had were perennial herbs. So like sage. Well, it depends. Some of them will die in the winter if it's a cold enough winter here, and sometimes they'll make it through just fine. But we, sage, thyme, oregano, mint. I mean, especially if you sell to restaurants that have bars, like everybody buys mint for their bar. And it's like so easy, like as a farmer, it's just around all the time, and whatever, you put it somewhere where it won't take over your garden. But I've found that perennial herbs are really nice. And we started doing some cut flowers just as like an extra thing to sell to restaurants, so they could put in like little bud vases on their tables or put out an arrangement. And it's nice to have some, the nice mix of annual cut flowers, but to have some perennial flowers too. And the great thing about those things is a lot of the herbs are one of the earlier things that you can sell. So we grow like sorrel and other, it's just like the restaurants, at least with that market channel, are like so eager to get something fresh in the spring. So if you just fresh perennial herbs have been really profitable for us. I will say, because we don't have anything growing protected in a tunnel and they're growing outside, we do lose things over the winter. So we always start new perennial herbs every year. But they also sell really good. We do like a plant sale in the spring, and so like people love to buy herbs. And so if you start them and you don't need them because things live through the winter, you can often keep them in a pot and sell them to people for their own garden. So that's worked out for us that way.
As far as like an annual that's worth it, kind of like this new thing that we've tried for 2 years now is transplanting arugula. And it's wild arugula type. And it's like anywhere from 10 to 20 seeds per cell. And wild arugula types grow slower, and they're slower to bolt. And even if they do send a flower, it's like a very delicate stem, which is edible, remains edible. So during summer even, this arugula, which is under protect net, which kind of diffuses the light as well, so it kind of acts like a shade cloth at the same time as keeping the flea beetles off. And so then, even in the summer, like, it'll leaf out because they have so many seeds per cell, so it's like a bushy plant per cell, and even if it wants to bolt eventually, it's still an edible. You could just cut everything, and it's still an edible part of the plant. So, so transplanting arugula, especially the wild type, there's like a variety called Belesia from Johnny's who I really like. So that was like a new worth it annual for us. And transplanting spinach, transplanting beets as well. We started a while ago. To me, that has been worth it.
No asparagus.
Oh, we have some, just enough for us to eat.
I don't like asparagus.
I do have some asparagus, but it's a struggle to keep it weeded because I have such limited hours on the farm for me. Yeah.
You can burn.
I did do that this year. Yeah, this past year.
Can you all talk a little bit about approaching restaurants and starting to build those relationships?
I mentioned before we met a lot of chefs at the farmers market. Those were our first restaurant clients. And the thing is that people move around a lot from restaurant to restaurant. So it kind of grows really naturally because you build a relationship with a restaurant. They might continue to order from you, but maybe like the sous chef or whoever, like somebody's moved to another restaurant and says, hey, we were getting really good local produce from such and such farm. And so I was lucky because I had worked on farms that worked with restaurants. I had never worked in a restaurant myself before, but I had learned from farmers that were growing for restaurants and thinking about unique varieties, colorful, flavorful, things that hold up well, meaning like, don't just fall flat on the plate, like, before it gets out to the customer and things like that. And so I would just say, like, if you're trying to get into restaurants, it's really great to just like meet the people at the places where chefs like hang out and build the relationships that way. I've never done a lot of like cold showing up at a restaurant with a bag of vegetables and being like, hey, I'm Annie and here's some vegetables. Like, we've really been able to maintain our customer base just by word of mouth amongst restaurants in the area. I'd say, like, for sure you have to chase chefs down. You can give them a deadline. I need your order by 6 o'clock on Sunday or whatever. I've played around with the timing. Like, most restaurants are closed on Monday, so if they're like finishing up service on Sunday, looking at what they have left, that's like a good time to get an order from them. And we try to drop off on a Tuesday or a Wednesday before they get really busy on the weekend. And we try to drop off either at the end of after service if they're a breakfast lunch place, or before service, like if they're a dinner place, or just like on their prep day. So those are all things to take into consideration. You're gonna have a lot more success if you're like working around the way that their schedule is. But I would say, like, for sure, give them a deadline. And then if they haven't ordered by 6 o'clock and they normally order from you, text them and be like, hey, did you want anything? Just check in. Did you want anything this week? And almost all the time they're like, oh, thank you for the reminder, and I'll get you an order in 20 minutes or something like that. And like, it will like double the amount of orders that you get for a week if you just like give yourself that time slot to like check in with people at a time that you know that they will respond. But for me, I do like a fresh sheet every week to our restaurants, and we have people that order every week and we have people that order once a month, but like it evens out pretty well. Yeah.
Do you charge a delivery?
I'm going to change my minimum order this year, but we were doing a minimum order of $50, which is too low. We're going to up that to $100. But we were doing free delivery if you ordered over $100 and a 5% discount if you order over $200 to try and encourage. And some people would like order exactly $200 to get the discount. But for us, we would rather drop off more stuff at every stop. And so whatever you can do, even a little discount or something like that. And then we do for restaurants, we have like case prices. Like we basically sell at retail price, like by the bunch or like whatever we do for our CSA. But we give them a slightly discounted case price if they order like 12 of something, as a way of, again, like trying to encourage people to order more in bulk. And those things have worked really well for us once we started instituting them.
If you want to get into restaurants, definitely look at their menu first and see what you can offer them. Show up with that, and make sure that you don't show up during service. Like if they're open from 12 to 2 and 5 to close, don't show up at 5, don't show up at 4, and don't show up at 2. Show up in the middle, and it is worth like walking in there with a box of produce unannounced sometimes, and sometimes it's not. A restaurant that is owned by the chef is going to be much more receptive to working with the farmer, instead of it being like a corporate structure where they're much more worried about their cost of goods, because that's a lot of the times what it boils down to for a lot of people who are not restaurant owners is like if they cannot get their food costs in line, they're going to get fired, and so they're not going to be too interested in super expensive little garnishes if it's not a necessity for them. Also, the temperament in kitchens can swing up and down quickly. So, when you walk in the room, just see how tense everybody is. And if they're super tense, just be a little bit more low key and don't try to chit chat everybody. Because sometimes you can make the chef mad if you're like talking up the fry cook about this or that, if they're behind on their stuff. I feel like there's a lot more I could say there, but
You can expand
we got
little-
5 minutes.
I was going to say, you can expand a little bit if you want to, because we have unique insight with you as a chef, so, okay.
I like when the chefs come to farmers market.
Let's see. I think we'll take one more question. Any crops you grow that your current markets don't have a big demand for, but you decide to continue growing to attract a new customer? We're thinking culturally appropriate vegetables, for example.
Italians with radicchio. Yeah, we like radicchio looks beautiful, and we all want to be like the fancy farmers on the east and west coast, and I like eating it, and it's chicories. They come in so many different forms, and you can do all the fun things with them. Ironically, in the picture I was holding tardivo, which is a chorizo type plant, radicchio, and then you dig it up and force it, which makes it kind of stretch into like an octopus type shape. And you can sell, you can, if you can get like $20 a pound for it or something like that, it could be worth it. But it's very labor intensive. So, and you want to try all these different radicchio types, and it's kind of hard to grow in our climate because it stays very hot and humid, and then it just kind of drops like a rock. It just gets too cold. And so, but radicchio kind of was becoming a trendy veggie a couple of years ago, and so, because it's fun to eat and look at, and because I was anticipating maybe a trend picking up, we tried as many different varieties, but it kind of never happened for us. I think that's now on the decline. And you have to recognize that. So.
For me, I have a really hard time selling whole garlic to restaurants. I don't know if you guys have that problem, but it sells better at like the on-farm farmers market, just for people's houses. But chefs usually just buy peeled garlic in a gallon, and it's really cheap in comparison to what you would buy whole garlic for. On the other side of that, though, spring garlic is a huge seller for chefs because it's one of the first green things they can get. And so I always, in the fall when I plant my garlic outside, I plant a couple to, this year I did 300 feet inside. And so I'll have a really early spring garlic crop and I'll start picking it and it'll get me in the door in the restaurants. I wish I had a better target date on that, but really early. So it's a really nice thing and it's pretty high value, honestly.
Yeah, there's like green garlic or garlic scapes we sell to restaurants and we put into our CSA, but we only ever put whole garlic into a CSA box. Like it's not worth trying to get the price for it at a restaurant. Same thing with onions. Like I don't sell onions or summer squash or really cucumbers that much, or try to even do it to restaurants because they can get it cheaper from a lot of other farms. And I want the price that I want for the labor that went into it. But we will grow it for our CSA members. So yeah. But I love radicchio, and we've had good success with it with restaurants, and I think chicories make more money per square foot than lettuce, and they hold better. So I will champion a chicory over a lettuce any day of the week.
I will say this: we have had a lot of passionate conversation about chicories amongst this group, so I'm sure people would be happy to continue this dialogue.
Can I say one more thing about garlic real quick?
Yes.
Like with farmers market and garlic, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but like getting like $3 for a cured head of garlic versus $3 for a fresh head of garlic that hadn't been cured with like, the stalk, people are way more willing to pay that money for that fresh, and then when it's dry, when it's cured, they're like, this is just grocery store garlic. We're not gonna pay $3 for this, even though it's taken us way more time and energy to get that product.
I think that's a fantastic way to wrap this panel. Join me in thanking this incredible group.